actually moving on. I remember I was telling you guys that I like my coffee black, and I think you can see how black it is. But we know the master of coffee who is here today, the owner of Uka herself, Max. Yeah, so these guys make the best coffee in town. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true.
Africa, sorry. Not biased.
Not biased, coming from Q. But these guys make the best coffee in Africa. I'll let her introduce herself, but she's the owner of Uka, and she will explain more about herself. And yeah, over to you, Max.
Thank you very much. So unlike Mr. Malawezi, I do need an introduction. So I'm Max. A little bit of my background. I have a background in philosophy. I'm an educator. I used to be a teacher. I also trained in psychotherapy, and I am doing a lot in the fitness industry right now. It's been part of my life for a few years. So the topic that I wanted to speak on today is the link between our physical health and our mental wellness and our mental well-being, and that kind of link between mind and body. So I think we've all kind of had that feeling before, probably, where we've maybe been out for a long walk, or perhaps we've dragged ourselves and done some kind of workout that we maybe didn't want to do, and we left that feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit clearer, a little bit brighter. It's quite rare that we regret doing those kinds of activities. So I wanted to speak initially just on some of the reasons why our physical health and fitness activities can really be beneficial for our overall mental well-being. The first is basically biology, okay? So our brain biology. So actually, when we exercise, when we do workouts, our brain releases neurochemicals that are really beneficial for us, two in particular. So it releases serotonin. Serotonin is our happy hormone. It is what can regulate our mood, it can give us a boost, it can give us a lift, it makes us feel good. And this is released for free by our brains after we have done a workout. The other neurochemical that's released is dopamine. Dopamine is our reward chemical. It's what makes us feel really good having done some effort, and it gives us motivation to do more. Okay, so it's kind of like our motivation hormone, if you like. Now, for anybody who has been feeling down, has been feeling anxious, who's been feeling worried, who's been feeling generally kind of quite heavy about life, our tendency is maybe to fall into the habits that aren't particularly good for us. We might actually lack motivation. We talked earlier about hopelessness. It can actually just make us want to just curl up into a ball, glue ourselves to the very easy dopamine of our phones, those little dopamine hits that don't go anywhere, that don't really give us long-term reward, and actually gives us kind of a lack of motivation to get up and do things. And that can create very much a downward spiral when we're in that state of mind where we just feel like I don't have to get up and go. I've got no reason to get up in the morning. And a lot of people will feel that what I need to do is I need to get motivation. I need to wait for motivation to find me, or maybe I need to look for other ways, other sources to get motivation. That's where we maybe start seeking things like medication. Motivation, actually, studies are showing, doesn't really work like that. What gives us motivation is doing something. So you've actually got to find the willpower to do the thing that then gives you motivation to do more. So just the way that we can find ourselves in like a downward spiral, in a downward loop, we can also kickstart that into an upward spiral as well. So they're the two neurochemicals that you can get for free. I'm not saying that mental health medication isn't effective. It certainly is for a lot of individuals. But there are some things that you can do to kind of kickstart your own brains for free. The other thing that biologically exercise does for us is it actually reduces some of the biochemicals that can be quite harmful. So cortisol and adrenaline. So cortisol and adrenaline are our stress hormones, and they are what causes our reactions of fight or flight. We've all heard of this phrase, we want to fight or flight. And this is in the face of danger, this is in the face of stress. Now, these neurochemicals are really, really useful in an evolutionary sense. If we're being chased by a predator or we're in mortal danger of getting hurt, we need those chemicals to kick in to make us act. That might be fighting or it might be running away. There's a physiological and then a physical reaction to danger. Now, what happens in the modern world is that we see a lot of threat and a lot of danger that is not physical. We see the deadlines from work. We see we've got to pay this kid's school fees. We're worrying about our relationship. We're worrying about what somebody thinks of us. We're worrying that somebody put a negative comment on our social media. These are not real threats. And so our body doesn't actually have a physical reaction to get rid of those hormones. So what happens is that the adrenaline and the cortisol gets stored up inside us, and our body holds on to that. So what we feel is chronic stress, okay? This is not very helpful to us. So exercise is one way that we can help flush those hormones from our system. So we're having a physical response, we're doing a physical activity, and it's helping to lower that chronic cortisol and that chronic adrenaline that can build up inside of us and make us feel a bit crappy about ourselves. So that's the biology, that's the biological explanation as to why fitness can help you feel better mentally. There's also psychological reasons. So through fitness, we can help build our confidence because we can actually exert effort in a way that we can see rewards. And that reward might be that we see our weights going up if we're lifting weights. It might be that we can run further the next week from the first week, that we're actually seeing some progress in what we're doing. Or maybe we're doing the same activity and we're just feeling a bit fitter. We're feeling a bit better about ourselves. There might even be in the terms of a team sport that we feel like we're learning skills, we're getting better at a certain sport. So that can really help to boost our confidence as an individual and help our well-being. If we've been in a state where we've maybe felt depressed, stuck, that feeling of stuckness, exercise can also break up that period of rumination where we just sit and we're stuck in our thoughts. And everything just feels very oppressive, like we're boxed in. So doing some exercise can just disrupt those thoughts, those unhealthy thoughts, those toxic thoughts, and it can just break up that feeling and just give us a little bit of a reset, a bit of a psychological reset. The third reason why it can help us psychologically is that it can give us a sense of routine and structure. So often, again, when we're in that state where things feel a bit hopeless, that nothing's getting better, nothing's changing, sometimes having something to get up for, whether it's we're going to go and do a morning run, we're going to go and just do 10 minutes of yoga in the morning, we're going to go to that Tuesday evening class because I already booked in and they're expecting me. That just sense of obligation to go and build some routine and structure in your life can be really, really helpful. And almost kind of following on from that point, there's a social aspect to fitness that can boost our mental well-being, which is that very often fitness is communal. We often seek out other people to work out with. We maybe join a class, we maybe get a buddy, and so we can have that sense of belonging. When we go to a sports club or a fitness class, we might go from feeling isolated at home in our particular situation to doing a shared activity with other like-minded individuals. And sometimes somehow we just don't feel quite so alone in the world. When we're just getting dirty and sweaty, we're suffering together, we're getting through the workouts, and we all have that kind of like serotonin boost together as a group afterwards. The environment in which we train can also have a massive, massive benefit for us. So for a lot of people, exercise takes place outside. Now, if we're outside, we're getting fresh air, we're getting a change of scenery. Perhaps we're in nature. Perhaps we're just going for a simple walk, a simple bike ride, a run, out somewhere that's a little bit green. If we're outside and we're getting sunshine, we're getting vitamin D. Vitamin D is a great vitamin because it is a mood booster. It has a lot of qualities that help us to promote kind of brain functioning. Okay, so vitamin D is really, really important for us. And it's also a change of scenery. So for people who haven't been feeling great, maybe we want to hide away inside our homes, it maybe just gives us a new place to be, a new way to express ourselves. The other 2 points that I wanted just to make are, it's a little bit of a tangent to fitness, but it is linked to both fitness and mental health. The first is sleep. We cannot underestimate the power of sleep to give us a little bit of mental peace and well-being and tranquility. So even though I'm here as a kind of a fitness advocate, your restoration and your rest is as important as any physical exertion that you do, because you can go too much the other way. Okay? You can be focusing just on the exertion, but the rest is important. So when we've done a physical activity, generally our bodies feel a bit more tired. Generally, we might find it easy to fall asleep, and once we've fallen asleep, to stay asleep. So I'm sure quite a few people in the room have felt that feeling of waking up in the middle of the night, your mind just starts flooding with things that your brain wants to tell you. So it's trying to get you really, really good quality sleep and more peaceful sleep. And the final point is on nutrition. So we talked about kind of like fitness inside out. So I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm not here to talk specifically about nutrition, but I do think that there is quite a strong link between nutrition and exercise, and nutrition and fitness. Now, often when people start a new kind of sport or start getting into fitness in some shape or form, that often goes alongside looking at their diet and their nutrition, because at the end of the day, our food is our fuel that allows our body to do amazing things. Okay, some people get that sort of flip side the wrong way around, that exercise is like some punishment for the calories that we've eaten. No, it's the other way around. Okay, your food is a celebration of what your body can do, it's fueling you. And for a lot of people, when you start fitness, it's almost like your body knows what it needs. It's like your body knows what is good for it. And you start perhaps leaning towards foods that are better for you. So maybe increasing your intake of protein. You maybe just crave more fruit and vegetables, things that are generally good for you. You might even hydrate more. How does that link into mental well-being? Well, there's a huge amount of research recently, in the recent years, over your gut microbiome. Okay? Your gut microbiome controls so much of what happens in your mind. We tend to think like our mind is just controlled by our brain and what's going up here in our head. Your gut microbiome is everything that's going on in your intestines, in your digestive system. And there are a whole army of bacteria in there. And mostly they are good, okay? Now, when you're eating the good foods, you're getting the fiber, you're getting the fruit and vegetables, you are feeding the good bacteria that has a good effect for our overall health and for our brain functioning and for our mental well-being. When we eat too much of the bad stuff, too much of the sugars, too much of the processed fats, the oils, deep fried food, we're actually feeding a different kind of bacteria that are more harmful for us. And when we have an imbalance, that harmful bacteria can actually send messages to our brain and make us feel certain ways. So there's a very, very strong link that's now emerging in science between your digestive system and what's happening in your mind, not just your brain, but what's then actually happening in your mind and how it's making you feel. So the whole range of reasons why physical activity, fitness, is very much linked to our mental well-being, can be linked to our mental well-being as well. So hopefully that's a brief enough intro to get us started.
Yes, wow, thank you so much, Max. I guess trust your gut isn't just a saying anymore. You really do need to take care of your gut so you can trust it and make better decisions. That's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. Ooh, Ooh. Not because I'm thinking about the Coca-Cola that I drink, and I'm like, girl, yeah, no.
The scary thing is that those bad bacteria actually send messages to our brain to make us want to crave more of the food that they want to eat.
Oh, wow.
It's like alien. It's scary stuff.
Yeah, it's like, no, we want bad decisions. Tell the stomach. No, that's amazing. So first question that I'm really, really interested in, it's for the male gender. Ironically, Howard, last time you had excused, you had asked me to excuse you, so please excuse me this time. Now there's a gym bro trend. That's been coming up. Young men, older men are trying to, get very fit and pumped up and everything. But there seems to be a disjoint between, how they perceive themselves and how they relate to other people and their mental well-being versus their outer physical appearance. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you raised that. Because when we start getting into fitness culture, you're absolutely right that we can actually develop a very unhealthy relationship, not just with fitness, but also with ourselves. And I know you mentioned men, I can also speak on women on this as well. So we start getting a little bit obsessed about how we look. We start looking for shortcuts, and actually we're no longer exercising because it makes us feel good. We're kind of exercising out of fear because we think if we don't exercise, we're not going to look good, or we're not going to keep up with our peers, or we're not going to be able to post those videos on Instagram. And it becomes very much about appearances, and appearances can be very, very deceptive. You can see a lot of these people who look like they're having a great time at the gym, who are maybe not having a great time mentally, and are maybe not actually doing things that are healthy and beneficial for their bodies. They might actually be doing things that can be harmful in the long term in terms of injuries if they're exercising improperly. So I think there are a lot of concerns that I have around what the fitness industry is kind of creating, especially on the social side of that. I know you asked the question about men, and I really appreciate that. I do also want to mention on the flip side that for women, anecdotally, and I've heard this kind of locally, which is why I raise it, is that women often see gyms as kind of unsafe spaces. So there are a lot of gym bros out there who can make women in gyms feel uncomfortable, either just through the male gaze, through being present, or through unwanted interactions with women, or through certainly unwanted video footage in the gyms. And that's something that I just want to call out here because it is happening. And so the fear is that places like gyms and sports centers become places where actually it can be very, very damaging to our mental health, and we can feel like they are unsafe spaces. All I can say on that is wherever this is happening, especially for women, is to call it out. And maybe if you're feeling at all out of place in a gym or in a sports area, this is perhaps not the place for you. So if you're comfortable, call it out, or maybe try and change what's happening in those spaces. But also there are plenty of places that are very supportive and are very welcoming. On the male side, my sort of background to fitness, I didn't start fitness, and I didn't know fitness at all until I was 32. I was very late to fitness. As I said, background in philosophy, I just used to think I could drink wine and just read books. So I was very, very late to this. But I started CrossFit. For anyone who knows CrossFit, I think maybe some people do. So it is a mixture of cardio, it's weightlifting, and it's kind of calisthenics and body control gymnastics. So it's kind of everything. And it is quite a masculine kind of sport. Yeah, it's seen as something that's very, very masculine and macho. And one of the things about CrossFit gyms, and this is one of the things that they will say to you, is leave your ego at the door. We don't care. We don't care what you can lift, we care about how you feel. And in CrossFit gyms, there are no mirrors. There is no posing, there's no phones, there's no videoing yourself, you don't have time for selfies, guys, you're doing 100 burpees. So, whilst, there is a place for mirrors if you don't have a trainer, in a CrossFit gym there is always a coach that has eyes on you to correct your form. It's not about posing, it's not about how you look. Forget how you look. We're all gonna leave the gym looking a sweaty mess. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that I love that as a methodology, is because it's so anti how does it look. It's all about how do you feel, and it's all about getting together as a group, supporting each other, and you cheer on, it's a group workout, everyone does the same workout, and you cheer on the last person. The last person gets the biggest cheer. Everyone finishes.
Wow, that's lovely.
I see that, Max, you do a lot in fitness. I know you haven't explained everything. You do yoga, you do calisthenics, you do
Gymnastics, she says.
gymnastics, boxing, and yeah. So, that's a lot. And I just wanted to understand, for someone who also owns a business and has a family, we know that the star is still right now. So, what exactly is, how do you balance those things? How do you balance having all those things around you, but still saying that I'm going to be going to the gym, I'm going to be working out, and I'm going to be doing all these classes? What really pushes you to continue doing that? Yeah.
Great question. So I mentioned I started with CrossFit. That is true. I trained as a CrossFit instructor. Me and my husband opened a CrossFit gym, the first CrossFit affiliate in Malawi, which we still have out in NRC. And I loved it. I loved the weightlifting. But 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, it came to light that I have degeneration in one of my discs in my lower back, as some people do genetically. It probably wasn't helped by weightlifting, but it's one of those things, it happened, it's just going to get worse. It is something that I have to live with. And actually, that's kind of how my fitness journey kind of changed, because for me, everything was CrossFit. 5 days a week CrossFit. I wasn't going to competition level, but I loved it. I just wanted to train it. I wanted to train other people. That was my fitness, having never done any sport in my life, ever. And so when that was taken away from me, it was like a piece of my identity went. And I went into a hole, I'll be honest. I absolutely lost something that I got up for. I literally got out of bed to go outside to my gym and train and to go and coach. And I got to a point where the pain was so bad I couldn't even coach because I couldn't demo. I couldn't demo any of the movements. I could barely pick up a PVC pipe from the floor. It was really bad. And so I actually had to stop fitness for a while. And it's then that I really realized that link between physical health and mental health. Because when I had to give up the fitness, all of a sudden, life just felt a bit heavier. When you have those kind of bad moods, you're just like, I'm just gonna go sweat it out in the gym. And when that was no longer available to me, I went into quite a dark place, and it really kind of forced me to change. I explored a whole load of different things. Again, we talked about privilege earlier. I was able to go and seek help. I've had MRIs and X-rays and a whole bunch of experts tell me all the different ideas about what's wrong. But one of the things that I was repeatedly told is, number one, you're never going to lift again. You're never going to do those dynamic Olympic lifts that you used to absolutely love. And number two, strengthen your core, strengthen your back, and you can actually have a fit, healthy, long life. So it's not about giving up all kinds of fitness, but work on your core, work on your back strength. And so this is where Pilates came in. So I started training in Pilates, which I had to do every day just to ease the pain. That's why I had to do it. And that has really, really helped me. It's really made a difference. It's forced me to train differently. I'd always done a bit of yoga for stretching, and I thought maybe stretching's enough, but it's actually the activation that I needed to build up that core strength and kind of protect my lower back. And I enjoyed it, but I got to a point where I thought, am I just Pilates now? Am I just kind of matcha lattes and leggings and Pilates and doing all this sort of stuff?
Gym pants.
And, I needed that because I think I had been pushing too hard for too many years. And, you know, my body was responding to that, and it said, you know, you need to slow down. So I was looking for things to do where I could actually basically train pain-free, but also get a bit of sweat on, get cardio. And I just missed that feeling fierce. Yeah, when I started CrossFit, I was like, holy heck, like, I can lift a barbell above my head. You know, I just thought I was a girl and bake cakes and things, but hey, look at me, I'm all sweaty. So, yeah, I was looking for that. Actually, one of the things I found was we had a lady, Josh, who was doing a step class, step aerobics, and I started doing that. I was like, let me try this, because I can stay upright. There's no quick up and down or hinging movements. And I loved it because I could get a sweat on to music. It was good fun. Right now she's traveling. Hopefully she'll start the classes back up again. And that's also how I found boxing. Because I'm like, well, I can stay upright. Yeah, I'm not kickboxing. I'm literally just upper body movements. I started training in the UK when I went to visit, and we found a trainer here who's fantastic. And he is now starting classes at Quasar. So anyone who's interested in kind of like beginner's level boxing, there's 3 classes a week now. And I went, you know what, the thing that I miss is the coaching. I really, really miss that. And so that's why I started working on the stretch and strength classes that I do here on a Sunday morning, because it is that stretching out, it's activating the muscles, it's making sure that we're all warmed up and strong before we lift, and we're lifting slow and steady. We're not throwing barbells around, but we are lifting slow and controlled and building the muscles that we need to build in order to live a long and healthy life. Yeah. And that's kind of led on to trialing some high intensity classes. So basically what I'm saying is all of this is completely selfish. This is all just feeding things in me that I need, and it's given me just accountability, and it's actually helped me through that period of loss, which it really felt like loss to me, and it's really just helped me rebuild my identity, rebuild my confidence, and keep me accountable, because hey, if I'm training others, I gotta keep up my own training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, that's really great. So for me, I'm also like a gym bro. Like, yeah, so like I do go to the gym, and for me, my journey in fitness began at also like a very, it was a tough time for me during the time that I was going through some tough times. That's when I went to the gym, and I think for most men actually, we start going to the gym because of some issues that happen. Yeah, some are women related, but I won't say much.
That's for next month. That's for next month's episode.
Yes. So I mean, in my fitness journey as well, I've been someone who was small, and at some point I got big, and then at some point I got really big, and then I became small again. And what I noticed was that there were a lot of comments on my body, for example. It's funny how like ladies are also like not okay with people commenting on their bodies, and I also think men were also the same, but it doesn't show much because the thing is we also get comments on our bodies,
sure.
right? So you know there will be times where like. I'm a little bit small and I'm going to the gym, and then people are like, why do you still go to the gym every day? You know, you're not changing. You know, look at those arms, they're so small and you know, people say a lot of things. You know, you want to wind down and see the wall. You know, so you go through those phases, and then there's a point where you've worked so much, you have built your body. It's now like at a size where you're like, okay, now I'm big. And then people are like, hey,
You're too big.
you're too big. You're too big. Please stop here or try to reduce. You know. So I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of that body shaming culture in our society. You know, which actually counters the gym or the fitness person. Right? People are always commenting on you, how you look. When you're big, they're like, you're big. When you go small now, they're like, okay, it's now too small. Now you have to like continue building it again. And you're like, okay, so what do people want exactly? You don't really know where. Yeah, like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just wanted to highlight that and to say, how does one handle that? How do you handle, let's say, feedback that is coming from the people around you? It can be negative feedback or them just saying something that you might be offended by. You're like, okay, so why are people saying this? So how can someone deal with that? Because I'm sure it's also a mental health thing.
Yeah, and just sorry, Max, and just to add on his question, there are times when you make the personal choice. For example, you want to go on a weight loss journey, or you want to build more muscle, you want to tone up, but because people have already made comments about your weight, you're fat, you're too big, you're like. But if I do go on the weight loss journey that I want to go on, it's like I'll be proving them right. They say, "Oh, see, we told you need to lose weight," or it kind of feels like you're living for them. A little ego, in you, where it's like I don't want you to think I did this for you, so I'm just gonna not change anything about me, but I do want to change something about me. So yeah, how do you handle unwanted feedback from people?
Yeah, I think this is also a really, really important topic to talk about. And, because the bottom line is that fitness is not for the young, fitness is not for the beautiful, fitness is not for the strong, fitness is not for the Instagram influencers. Fitness is for everybody and fitness is for life. And I think there really needs to be a bit of a campaign of change and a bit of a different conversation about that. We need to stop talking about fitness in terms of how it makes us look.
Yeah.
And we need to start talking about fitness in terms of how it makes us feel. And it is really hard and crushing and soul destroying when somebody has made that first step through the door into a gym. Either, they're a guy, they're quite small, they're self-conscious, maybe they're a girl, maybe they're overweight, maybe, this is the first time in the gym, maybe it's the first time in the gym after a long period, maybe they have a very unhealthy relationship with their body already. The last thing they need is any kind of shaming. And like I said earlier, if you see trainers acting inappropriately, if you see anything that you feel comfortable to call out, or just go and lend a word of support to people, I would really urge you to do that. And we kind of can only do that by sticking together, We can either kind of perpetuate this idea that going to the gym is only for posting on our status, or we can kind of share the idea of what fitness really is and what it can do for us. It's really, really hard when we're already low to ask ourselves to have that kind of resilience, to actually be advocates for ourselves. But I would just say with fitness, try and find your tribe, okay? Don't seek out just what you think is gonna make you look good, but seek out communities, trainers, groups, gyms, spaces that are there for the right reasons and that are supportive and welcoming and inclusive of all, because they do exist, they are out there. There is a toxic culture out there that we all want to speak out against, but there is a really, really supportive and safe culture. So I think really definitely try and find your tribe. And as instructors as well, anyone who is an instructor, who is a personal trainer, I think this is a really important part of education. And you do unfortunately have a lot of trainers out there who are just lift heavier, do more reps, keep pushing. They're not trainers, guys, they're cheerleaders. Yeah? If you want to pay a cheerleader, you can pay anyone off the street to do a cheerleader for you. If you want an instructor who's going to teach you how to move safely, how to make your body more mobile, how to lift well, that is not going to cause injury in the long term, then really, really do your research around that. But yeah, I think it's a really, really toxic trait that we do need to call out and we do need to address. And I think that people in the industry are partly responsible for that, for educating people on the value of fitness, for sure.
All right, so I probably, let's say there's a person who's listening right now and, they have never gone into a gym, they have not started, and they're hearing all these things about yoga, CrossFit, calisthenics, all that
Never
stuff.
even climbed a mountain.
Never hiked before, right? So, how does a person start? How do they start and how do they maintain? Because the starting is one thing. We always hear people say, New Year's resolution, 2026, summer body, all those things, right? So, we have this culture whereby people are starting gym because there's like a movement around it, like, okay, this is a time when people are going to the gym. But what would you tell someone who's a beginner, right, who has not started yet, and how do they maintain until they reach a certain level when they're going through some of the challenges? I'm sure there's so many challenges that come with the fitness as well. Like, they're not seeing the results, right? They've been doing it and they're not seeing the results. How do they go through that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this taps in a little bit to what I said at the start about motivation. That actually, sometimes we sit around and wait for motivation. The simplest answer is we just have to start. We just have to start somewhere. We just have to be brave enough to put ourselves out there, put ourselves into a situation that is maybe unknown to us, that is maybe uncomfortable, and that is maybe scary. And that means that as trainers, as personal trainers, as instructors, and as fellow classmates and fellow sports people, the first thing we've got to do is high-five that new person in the gym, that new person to class. Congratulate them for stepping through the door. I don't care if they don't do anything in the class. They came, they showed up, and that is the hardest thing. The hardest workout you will ever do in your life is the first one. It's always the hardest. And sometimes it's getting over that psychological barrier, that fear factor of not knowing, like, is it going to be too hard? Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to get confused? Am I going to go back to my car and vomit? Maybe, okay? But it will get better, and that's what we said about that kind of the confidence building. It is reassuring people that it does get easy. It's really easy to lose our fitness when we stop, but hey, good news is it's really, really easy to gain it back, and you'll start seeing so much rapid progress in the early days. That's what keeps people coming back. In terms of the science, really all sciencey, it's shown that if you want to boost your mental well-being, having 2 to 3 30-minute sessions a week is a really, really good place to start. But even as little as 10 minutes of exercise is also shown to have a boost. Now, you reeled off the whole load, and that's the next point. If someone's starting their fitness journey from doing nothing, as I said, I did nothing for 32 years, apart from kind of hide around the corner when I was trying to do cross-country at school. I didn't like running. I was terrified. The first time I went to a CrossFit gym, I was terrified, but I just so happened to find something I love, and I love the community. I love the people. The people are what make me come back. But what sport should you start with? Well, the best sport for you individually is the one that you find you enjoy, because that's the one that you're going to stick at. Now, that might mean that you have to try different sports to find that. You might try some, and they are not for you. That doesn't mean that fitness is not for you. It just means that maybe you've got to try a few other things. The same with therapy. You can go and see a therapist, go, yeah, we just didn't gel, it just felt a little awkward. Doesn't mean that therapy is not for you. It just means that that particular modality or that particular individual might not have been the best suit for you. So I would just really urge people to just see what's out there, ask around, and even just enlist the help of a buddy, because just having somebody to support you, somebody to back you. I like to call them your accountability buddies. Everybody needs an accountability buddy just to get you out the door, even if it's just to go for a walk. Okay, it's just that starting point. But it is incredibly hard, and I can't sugarcoat that. How do you actually get yourself going there? That's the tough bit. But once you're there, it's a lot easier to continue.
I absolutely agree. I don't really like a lot of sports, but last month I got into K-pop choreography. After watching K-pop Demon Hunters.
What is that? What is that?
Oh, so K-pop Demon Hunters is like the new Frozen movie. It's what? Oh yeah, so there's a routine. There's a song in there called Golden. I don't know if you've probably heard it. And there's something called the Hanman. If you so my dream is by the end of December I'd like to do the choreography for Golden, but I would like an accountability buddy. So if anybody wants to do the K-pop Demon Hunters routine with me, I'd be more than happy so that we can make plans and then do it together. I feel like it would be so cool. But just I agree, find something that works for you. And having said that, we'd love to hear from the audience. So do we have any questions, any comments? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Matt. I'm a hiker. So I have a hiking club and I have people that do come to my events when I plan on some. And there's this thing where it worries me a lot when I get people like beginners, they come to the club, maybe for a certain hiking trip, and then seeing other people that are good at hiking, they just come to one event and then they stop. So it hurts me because I feel like I let them down. They have this thing that, okay, I want to be like this guy, I want to be like these guys. And then they come, and then they just see the energy around. I try to keep them, like, let them know that, you're going to get better as time goes, but they think it's just another, just like how I treat everyone. But I've seen how when people are coming, the first time and they come to the second time, there's a big improvement. But still the others that don't come back, they just come once and then they quit. How do you deal with such people so that you give them at least, they should keep coming. They should know that they are not failures or it's not for them. Everyone can do it. Maybe it's just that they need more time and more practicing and more showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And I think, if you're doing this because you're running a business and you've got to have a certain group size, all of these things are going to come into play with it. So for anyone who's leading sports or expeditions, if it's a business, you've got to bear that in mind. One thing that I would maybe suggest is if it's feasible and if it's possible to segment groups so that you can have a big enough turnout where you have people who are more experienced hikers and actually have a beginners group and actually market it as such, and maybe in your kind of intake information that you're getting from people, you can kind of gauge, are they more experienced or are they beginners? Sometimes just making kind of a self-made group so that you can really tailor that to people to let them celebrate the small wins. Yeah, so everyone's going to have a different base level of fitness and everybody's going to have a different level of challenge that they need to meet. So one of the things we actually did in the CrossFit gym, because we were very aware that if anybody Googles or YouTube's CrossFit, it looks terrifying because you see like all the sexy stuff they're doing at the CrossFit Games and everybody's like walking on their hands and doing all kinds of cool stuff. It's not beginner friendly, it's not going to attract beginners. But CrossFit is designed for beginners. CrossFit is designed for people who are, 80. If they have a fall, they can get themselves back up off the floor. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fitness for life. So what we did is we had CrossFit sessions throughout the week. Monday night, we called it CrossFit Light. It was a beginner friendly. It wasn't. It was the same workout that the other groups did, but they didn't know that. Okay? The first CrossFit that I went to was CrossFit. I only found out later it wasn't. But it just meant that I was with kind of a self-selecting group that were of a certain ability and a certain level. The stretch and strength class on the Sunday, this is not in terms of ability, but I've had some women approach me and say, I don't feel comfortable training around men. Could we have a women-only group? And so I've segmented, I split the class, and I've now got a mixed group and a ladies-only group. So if that is feasible, that is one way that you can really, and I think it's a great marketing tool, because I think a lot of people who might be potential hikers don't ever approach you, because they think, well, heck, I don't know what I'm in for. I don't think it's going to be for me. I'm even more scared now. So the last thing you want is to set someone up for failure. You don't want someone to come along and find they can't do it. The other thing that I find really, really great, and I've had great rewards from in training, is huge amounts of enthusiasm. Celebrate the small wins. I've started PTing a few women. There's a lady who, we had a plate about this high off the floor, and she jumped onto it. And for her, that was a big deal. Because she told herself, I can't jump, I cannot do it. She proved herself wrong. So doing those little things like those follow-ups that you can do with people as well, like, even after the trek, just check in, how are you feeling? You did great, really hope to see you on the next one. A lot of people respond to positive encouragement with these things. So yeah, it sounds like you're doing fantastic things, fantastic things. I would be so excited and interested, and I know a lot of people that would be really interested if you were to offer something like a beginner's guide to hiking or kind of entry-level hiking. I think that would be very well received.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have any more questions? All right.
Actually, I have two. The first one, in the Malawian context, most people do manual work and like the work long distance work. So I've heard people saying that I cannot do exercises, going to gym and jogging just because working the long distance is already exercise on this one. The work I do is already exercise on this one. So my question is, do that have some benefits? Do they bring the result, or more especially the biological ones you have mentioned, do those things have the same benefits? And another one is about, can we replace therapy with exercise? Because the benefits you have mentioned, can we encourage somebody who that you should just do the exercises, not going to the therapy, it will give the same results? Is it okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those two questions. So I'll try and answer concisely. So for the first question, you talked about the people walking long distances, and walking long distances is great. You know, it's great for your health, and if that's all you can do, brilliant. If you want to do more and really optimize, there are other things that are shown to have benefits, both in terms of fitness and in terms of mental health. So as we get older, we lose muscle mass and we lose bone density. So keeping it really short, if we can keep lifting weights, if we can lift heavy into old age, it will help keep our muscle mass higher. And if we can have some kind of impact, jumping, skipping, jumping on a box, that actually helps to maintain our bone density. So these things, as we're getting older in terms of aging, these two things are really, really super important. The other thing is, if we are just walking, we're not building necessarily strength. So having some kind of strength bias can be really useful. But also our kind of mobility. So a lot of people, you mentioned manual labor. There's a lot of people who do manual labor and it's very repetitive. You're doing the same thing again and again. Your body's no longer adapting to it. It's not really building your fitness, and it can be building long-term injuries. So looking at your mobility and stretching out is also important, and that might be restorative. So it might not be do more, it might just be actually have some way of counteracting all that physical exertion that you're doing. In terms of the mental health, a lot of the research suggests that it is the short bursts of energy that is what gives us that kind of like adrenaline high at the end of the workout. So doing a very short but intense piece of exercise, or a sprint, might be a sprint, a run, or a bike. So those kind of elements might be missing for those people if you're really trying to optimize your health. Now, as I said, life happens and we can only do what we can do, but they would just be some elements that maybe once a week you have a look at whether you can build that into your fitness regime as well. Your second question is, can you just exercise? I'm going to hand over, but all I would say is that this is one piece of a puzzle. And the reason that we're talking about this today is to show that mental wellness is not just its own thing. It's not just its own category. You know, we've talked about sleep, we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about a social element, we've talked about physical exertion and training. And it's complex, yeah? As human beings, as animals, we are complex beings. And I would say that fitness is one part of that. For some people, it can be hugely beneficial. For others, maybe not so. So that's where maybe one of the experts can come in.
All right, that's a good question. Well, in short, I can say that it can't. I don't think it can replace therapy. I'm saying that because when it comes to, let's say, you're doing fitness or you're going to the gym and you're working out, it can't replace that human person who's there, you know? So, like, just to say it, counseling is not only for people that, or let's say therapy, is not only for people that are, let's say, going crazy or they're going mad or like things that are just going wrong in their life. Because people can go to therapy even when they're just fine. It's just that they need someone else to contend with, right? So therapy and counseling is like, it's like that relationship, right? The way people are, we were created to be in a society and to sort of live with other people. So what therapy is just having that person who you can talk to and contend with in terms of like some of the deeper things that you have that you can't tell everybody else. So I want us to also move from that mentality, that therapy is only for problems. So someone should solve like this is a problem, no, therapy is just that thing that it's something that everybody needs. Everybody needs a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist to just help them through their day-to-day and some of the things that they're experiencing. So, yeah, so I can say that a person can go to the gym, they can be working out, but they still need that sort of help. Yeah, so we can't say that only this thing can solve everything. No. Yeah, so I'm just re-echoing as well what Max said, that as people, we have different aspects of ourselves, right? There's the social aspect, there's the mind, and then there's the body. So we're talking about fitness, is just the body. So now where does that leave your mind, for example? What are the thoughts that are going through your day-to-day life? How do you process your mind? How do you maintain a healthy mind, for example? Right? Which is very key as well in everything, right? We're talking about in your relationships, in your career, in your everything is also tied to what are the type of thoughts you have, what are the behaviors you have, how is that making your life to go well, or is that making your life to go worse, right? So that is still something that needs someone else who's a therapist. Yeah, sure.
If I can also just add on to that, because this is also a really, really important point. Your body, as I said, it can store stress, it can store anxiety, it can also store trauma and things that have happened to you in the past that have maybe been repressed. And for some people, that can kind of get shifted and kind of come to the forefront through exercise. So for things like yoga, where you're literally stretching, opening up, especially when you're including things like breath work is very powerful. And I know it's a bit tangential to exercise, but it's often a component. That idea of breath work and really working on the breath can actually bring up some emotion, and it can maybe bring up some feelings that are a bit confusing and maybe want to then be explored through therapy. So it might then be something that kind of is brought to therapy sessions as well.
Yeah, no, yoga's made me cry a few times. Yeah, so I totally relate. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, please let's give a round of applause for Max Beech. Thank you so much. She'll be with us as well next month. For our next live session, we will be taping live as well on every 28th. And next month, we'll be looking at relationships. Yes. So we'll be looking at romantic relationships, work relationships, family relationships, friendships, interpersonal relationships. So we are so grateful that you attended the first session. Thank you so much. We'll be looking forward to your feedback. And please make sure we're now.